Welcome to the Marriage Podcast with David and Summer.
We're here to dive into all things marriage, faith, and family. Real talk for real couples.
Thanks for joining us. Let's get into today's episode.
Welcome to the Marriage Podcast with Dave and Summer, where we believe that every marriage can make it and that every marriage has a purpose. And we're so honored that you're tuning in today. And I'm excited because we get to talk about sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Salt and pepper did not do it right, but we're doing it in a godly way.
We're doing it in a godly way.
Right. So let's talk about it.
So what comes to your mind when you hear this? Because we talk about this at marriage conferences. We have a great time teaching this subject.
Yeah.
And we've got good feedback.
Someone gets bashful, and it ain't me because you can't see me being red, honey.
You can't. But what comes to your mind when you think about this topic?
Well, I always like
couples?
to start off with the question, like, how many of us have truly received an educational teaching, healthy, godly teaching about sex? And usually,
right,
I would say maybe less than 10 out of like
people,
500.
like 10 people. Well, we've done a conference of 1,200.
Well, yeah.
It was literally maybe 10.
Yeah. So 10%, maybe less than 10%,
yeah,
maybe 5%.
But you're asking them, did your parents talk to you about it?
Group leaders,
did you learn about it from
pastors.
someone as a trusted leader? That's your your basis of the question.
And no, hardly anyone. And usually we give people a hand clap who have. That's awesome.
Right.
But for myself, I mean, just talking way back, my mom tried to talk to me about it, and she was late. And what I mean by late was with, obviously I was molested. My siblings showed me pornography. Yes, I'm calling you out. And so I saw all that stuff beforehand. My mother came to me. So that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
And then just looking at the world. I mean, music. I mean, our thing was we didn't have social media, so our things was music videos.
Right.
So the women and how they looked and dressed, how the men, were attracted to their bodies and all the things. It was just so that was my kind of introduction, I guess. What about you?
Yeah, I think same thing. My dad did a great job talking to me. However, I was molested as well. Saw a little bit. I remember seeing a magazine in a store back in the day. But definitely had gaps in this area. Thank God that he changed my life, and then I have you in my life.
Right.
But this is an interesting topic because it's something that God gives us in our marriages, and yet it's we've learned from our marriage conferences and just you and I growing in this topic that it is at times tenuous.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be this wonderful gift.
Right.
But it's so many times it's a point of manipulation or arguments or, just disappointment or just whatever it is, maybe even the fracture of the marriage. And it's unfortunate, and there's a better way.
Well, and I would say that, speaking for myself, I was afraid. I mean, us dating, engaged, and we would talk about it to an extent, right? Yeah. We had a book. Do you remember the name of that book?
Intended for Pleasure by Dr. Wheat.
Right.
Like the food, Dr. Wheat. It's good.
So we read it individually.
Yeah.
And then there was one part where it was like,
phone.
What?
And then we talked on the phone.
Did we?
Because we didn't want to talk in person. Talk on the phone.
Boundaries, right?
Yeah.
But there was one section that we really couldn't read yet because it was getting into the nitty-gritty of it all.
Nitty-gritty. That's a great book, by the way. Intended for Pleasure. Highly recommend it for married couples and or engaged couples.
Yeah.
As a conversation starter. And that book is a spiritual book, medical book.
Yeah.
That can last for your lifetime. Highly recommend it.
Right. And so, anyway, my point of saying all of that is to say, like, I was nervous coming into marriage. I remember, at the wedding reception, and in my mind, I was just like, oh my God. Like, this is going to happen,
I remember, and I was like, it's time to go. And you were like, you want to go dancing? I was like, no, we're leaving. But what's interesting is that
That's the blush of it all.
that's right. What's interesting though is I've talked to guys and ladies, but guys over the years that maybe their dad left their mom, maybe their mom left their dad, maybe there was just upheaval from what we would call a sexual sin,
Mm.
and it destroyed the family. And what's interesting, I'm bringing this up because even people that don't serve Jesus, when that happens, it's like a heart shot.
Oh, yeah.
And a child or a teenager, even adult children of parents are devastated. And so what that speaks to me is this is obviously we know it's a big deal, but it's something profound for all of us. And whether you love Jesus or not, it impacts people. Immorality impacts people, and it impacts people's hearts, but also godly morality.
Yes.
Impacts people too. And when a couple can have a godly marriage and enjoy godly sex, I think it's a part of an impact that leaves a legacy for generations. I really believe that.
For sure.
It's a love affair.
It's a love affair.
It's a love affair.
Yeah. Well, and those who I would say that are engaged, especially those who are engaged, I just want to point out that I think you did a good job of just setting it up of like, what do you want on the wedding night?
Yep.
Do you want music playing?
Yep.
Do you want to just chill in the beginning?
Yep.
Like, I mean, literally like kind of just talking, like obviously
that was the one we talked on the phone.
Is that?
Yeah. And that's an awkward conversation. There's no doubt about it. It's awkward.
But it helped.
Yep, it does.
It relieved tension.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. There was still tension, child. I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing this.
Yeah, and we're still
but
doing
it was good tension.
And we're still doing it.
Come on. Our kids don't like us talking about that. But hey, we try to make it normal, right, for them.
So we talk about there's four basic reasons for sex that God gives to us. The first is pleasure. We can go through these and then we'll kind of break them down. So the first is pleasure. Thank God for that. The second one is...
Are we going to go through these?
Yeah, go through them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the second one is procreation or having children. And we understand that some people struggle with infertility.
Yeah.
And our care and thoughts are with you. And I believe God is with you in that moment, and he's with you through that journey. The third reason is a sacred bond. It's a sacred bond between a husband and a wife. And then it's a physical picture of a spiritual reality. And we are referencing a Bible verse in Ephesians 5 that talks about that our marriage is a mirror of Christ and the church. And so spiritually, Jesus gave his life for us, and we are a family. And so a married couple reflects that in their marriage.
Right. Well, based on the spiritual reality, I think those who've had a distorted image of sex because of what the enemy took, he took something so beautiful that God created and basically just distorted it. At least for me, of just the pornography that I've seen, my whole thing was, I don't want to be like those women. I don't want to be the nasty girl.
Right.
And so it was hard, and mentally it was hard for me to be free in our bedroom. And I just want to encourage women that if you are having that struggle, if you are having a hard time in that, I would speak the lie and remind yourself that the enemy has given that lie to you. That is not who God created you to be.
Right.
And that this is a beautiful picture of, like you already said, of Christ,
right.
of the unity of God. And so when we are together, when we are intimate, it's a beautiful thing. And no, you are not that nasty. You know, and
right.
it's just like, you don't want to be associated with that. And the enemy wants to think that you are associated with it and you're one with it. But you got to break yourself from that and say, actually, no, that's a lie. And the enemy has called me to this, and I'm going to love my man.
Right. Right.
So,
well, they were naked. Adam and Eve were naked and not ashamed. So that was how it started.
Right.
And so and God created them. We didn't make this up. God did.
Right.
So let's talk about this. So The first reason is that God gives us this for pleasure. There is a part of mutual pleasure, and Song of Solomon really lays this out. I would encourage you to read Song of Solomon if you haven't. It's very interesting, especially Song of Solomon 4, verses 1 through 6.
My God.
And so there
You
is this
read
mutual.
them Hebrew words. Woo,
Yeah.
child. And I think it goes into that book. I'm just saying, like, really what he's saying.
You've never told me the meaning of those words.
Babe, we talked about it in group. I remember like reading it to you, and I was like, babe, this is what this means.
Tell me again.
Oh my.
But the point is, the point is,
it's deep.
It is deep. But I think what you were saying though about sometimes the struggle of maybe thinking about pornography or thinking about just whatever behavior that's not according to scripture, and then now we get married, and maybe I don't know if it's more the women or the guys, but it's this struggle at times. At times, is this holy? Is this right?
Yeah.
Because we're inundated with all the negative, inundated with all the stuff all the time, and it's coming at us. You can't watch a commercial about soap or shampoo without some type of indication of some type of sexual thing. So it's all over the place. But I think it's important to remember, and I'm just looking at my notes here, that God made this so that a married couple can enjoy one another, and God created it for pleasure.
He sure did.
He did.
You deserve an O. You deserve an O.
Dear God.
Everyone who's married deserves an orgasm for the love of God.
That's right.
It's for pleasure.
This is what we
See, this is what I'm talking about. He gets bashful. See, I can talk about this stuff.
This is what we talk about.
60-year-old women have come to me and was like asking me about stuff.
This is what we do. We talk about a weekend to remember, and I can't stop laughing because the way you say stuff.
Well,
but it's good, and I'm glad you do, and I'm glad it's not me, that it's you saying that, because it helps maybe relieve the tension.
Yeah.
But if God made our bodies the way he did, which obviously he did, very intricate, only God could do it. And in this part of our lives, the sexual part of us, he did make us to have orgasms. God created our body to do that, and we can learn and grow in that.
Where is it? You got to remind me. Where is it in the Old Testament where it talks about when the man gets married, the first year,
right?
Everything,
It's in Deuteronomy. Yeah.
In Deuteronomy.
He can't go to war.
Can't go to war.
He needs to stay home and get to know his wife.
What that
actually means is have sex with her.
Talk about it.
So have a honeymoon for a year. Come on. That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you say honeymoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
But really, we can have honeymoon throughout our whole marriage.
Sorry, it's an inside joke.
It's not a date. It's not a destination. It's a revelation.
Oh.
Of a marriage. Of a marriage.
Okay.
Of a marriage.
All right.
Let's keep going. You're not with me.
Well, no. But what I'm getting at is that get to know is exploring.
That's right.
And he is supposed to, and she is supposed to explore her husband, and he's supposed to explore his wife. Because there's a lot of majority. I'm talking to women only about this. But majority of women have a hard time having I shouldn't say that. Majority of women compared to men have a hard time having an orgasm.
Yep.
And so that definitely needs to be discussed. There's women who I've talked to that are afraid to share with their husband because they know that it's so important for their husband to please their wife. And I can't remember one specific one. They've been married maybe over like 10 years, and she's just been faking it. And so
that's not good.
No. And my heart goes out to her, and even it goes out to any of you who are faking it and you just want to, basically you're trying to protect your husband, but quite frankly, it's not protecting your husband. Right. It's really breaking your marriage because you are lonely, down and out, and he needs to hear from you, and he needs to know, oh my gosh, okay, and the other thing is like, it's not like, oh, you're doing something horribly wrong. It's that you guys aren't talking.
Right.
That's the key. You got to talk and say, this is what let's try this. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. I mean, literally talk. That's intimacy.
That's right.
You got to have that first before the physical.
And really, so many couples struggle to talk to each other about sex. Even though, they're nervous. They blush. they're shy.
Right.
But who else can we talk to
Mm.
openly and as bare as as we can than our spouse? There's no
No
one
pun
else that we should
intended
talk to.
there.
You know what I mean? That we should talk to than our spouse. It has to be them.
Yeah.
So to me, I think also there's a stigma, not only of people, going to a confidant and talking, like,
Yeah.
ladies coming to you or guys coming to me and just talking and just
Mhm.
opening up. And that's a big deal. It's a big step of trust.
Mhm.
But, I think people have a hard time reading articles that are, medically based or that are just just basic sexual techniques that it's not reading something wrong. It's not looking
Right.
at something wrong. That's not what I'm saying. It's just basic information that I think sometimes Christians have a hard time uh, putting themselves out there to learn it
Mm.
because they feel like it's weird or it's wrong,
Like
but it's not.
erectile dysfunction.
Right.
Like that. Unfortunately,
There's medical
that's
conditions. There's all this stuff that people
depression.
we need to be reading and learning and growing, and we can even read articles about techniques that help couples to, I would say, enjoy one another.
Right.
And so it's it's okay.
You want to mention the app?
So, there's an app that we reference. It's called the Ultimate Intimacy app. And it's a Christian couple. In that app is very, they have conversation starters. It's for married couples, obviously. They have a lot of articles I just mentioned. They have other things that you can explore there that helps couples grow and learn together as a couple to I would say experience the best sexual connection they can have.
Right.
And so I would encourage you to download the app Ultimate Intimacy and see if it's for you. But it's a Christian couple, and we have I think it's good, and we encourage people to get it.
And I would do a disclaimer.
Yeah.
The disclaimer is they can't, like, I blush on some of the stuff that they mentioned. So if you are all about purity culture, maybe this isn't for you. But if you want to explore and you're like, I just want to just peek over,
And it's
I would-
biblically based.
it is.
You're just saying they're open about talking about stuff, and I would just say download the app and they can
Well,
figure
and
out.
there's a podcast.
There's a podcast.
You can
too.
check out the
Ultimate Intimacy.
podcast. And then there's another podcast with Family Life called Marriage with Benefits.
Yep.
So you can check that out as well.
The second region is procreation.
Yeah.
And so, the just basic stuff here, and we understand this, but our family tree, and I, my dad and I have done some research on our family tree and seeing the generations, come over from Wales and all that. Obviously that happened because people had kids, and the next generation comes, and et cetera, et cetera. So God created sex for really human population to continue. And if you think about it, it's very important that we get married, and if we're, I would say, if we're able to, is to have kids, and maybe if we're not, then I would, if you feel led to adopt kids or something, because there's something powerful about that. And when the next generation is nurtured and supported biblically, they can marry the right person, they can enjoy sex and have children, and just it keeps going. And so I know that's very basic, but I think we should talk about that. And in Malachi 2:15, the Bible says God wants godly children. So he puts people together for that.
Right. Legacy.
That's right. And we have 4 kids, and we're done.
And for the love of God, tell your kids that when the door is shut, your mom and dad are having sex. Get your tail away from the door.
That's right. And the parents out there know exactly what we're talking about right now.
It's so annoying.
It is.
Especially when they get older, because then they actually know what's going on.
So we just take it out and we just tell them.
Yeah.
Like we were at dinner at the house and we were talking, and somehow it came up. And I said that we still have sex, and our son AJ was like, "Wait, what'd you say?" Like, look, that was like he thought that we just had those, them, and then we were done.
But I remember opening the door one time, and Kendallin and that daggone dog of y'all's was just standing there like, "I want to come in." I'm just like, "Get away!" Yeah, but I say that to say, like, make it normal as far as yes, this is what mom and dad do.
Yep.
And you need to get away. And
It's good.
It's a beautiful thing.
Sacred bond is the next one. 1 Corinthians 7:3-4 talks about that we're connected, we're one, that my body is yours and your body is mine. And really, if you read that in 1 Corinthians 7, really there's a biblical precedent that really we shouldn't be rejecting our spouse. This is, I mean, why are you laughing right now? I'm telling the truth.
Because you like to use that scripture.
I
But I'd be
do.
like, I'm tired. Like,
Nope.
submission.
I don't do that.
I'm joking.
I don't do that. But I do say my body is yours.
Yeah, you do.
My body is yours.
Yeah.
But there is a biblical precedent that we really shouldn't be. Obviously, when you get married and you get into life, we don't have sex every day. That's hard to do, because of whatever.
We have.
But yeah, but there's a biblical precedent that we shouldn't be rejecting each other over and over and over
Right,
again. Really,
right.
in this passage, it's really talking about separating for a time of prayer and fasting and really serving one another. So I just want to
Mhm.
encourage us. And this topic is so massive, so many layers to it.
Right.
You're watching this, listening to this. Maybe this has been broken in your marriage. Maybe you've been broken from your past. I don't know. I'm right here to have all the answers. But I
Mhm.
would say God can heal anything.
Mhm.
God can redeem anything. He can restore anything, including this subject. And we can have a sacred bond with our spouse.
Mhm.
And we're called to have that bond.
For sure.
And so we say it this way when I've heard people over the years, and I don't want to stereotype men and women this way. So we'll just say, over the years, I've seen, or I've heard one of the spouses come to me and say, my spouse, all they want to do is have sex. All they want to do is just touch me, touch me, touch me. And that's all they want to do. And I'm like, good,
Mhm.
because who else should they be touching?
Yeah.
Who else should they be doing that to? Is nobody but you. And then the other one will say, all they want to do is talk. All they want to do is just talk, 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 and cuddle, and just sit around and just
Mhm.
cuddle with hot cocoa. And I'm just like, good. Who
Mhm.
else should they be cuddling with? Who else should they be talking to?
Mhm.
It should be you. So really, there's only one person in the world
Mm.
that, I would say biblically should see me in this light, should
Mhm.
know me this way, should see me this way, should experience me this way, and that's my wife. That's
Mhm.
you, and vice versa. So there's this bond that is a private thing that's sacred, it's holy in marriage. It's a gift, it's powerful. You got to work at it. You got to talk things out. I think you got to work on serving one another. But
Mhm.
man, when you get it right, it's something powerful.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
And research shows that we all do not have the same sex drive.
Right?
So men and women usually are not, I shouldn't even say usually, we're not compatible. People try to think, oh, we're supposed to be compatible. No, you're not.
Yeah.
I feel like the Lord did that on purpose.
Right.
And so,
Right.
for example, if you are one who gets tired, or I'm going to talk to the women. If you are the one who gets tired, you have cramps or whatever, one of the things that I have done is to be like, it's not necessarily a no period all the time, but it's so like, babe, can we do it tonight? Or can it be tomorrow? Or something like that. I'll always give,
Yeah.
the
That's good.
next time
That's
of
good.
when we can do
Yep.
it, instead of it just being like, no, 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 no. That's
right.
horrible.
It's good.
It's not good for you
And then
or for your marriage.
that's right. And the fourth one is, as you hit on earlier, it's a physical picture of our walk with Christ. And so,
Right.
we are one with Christ in the spirit, and we are one with our spouse in flesh. Really, that's the easy part.
Mhm.
Becoming one with our spouse, spirit, soul, body. The sex part's easy.
Yeah, that's a physical.
For most couples, that's going to happen on the wedding night or in their honeymoon. They're going to consummate the marriage sexually. Um, the lifelong part is the spirit and the soul. And really, I would say that the physical part, is going to respond
Exactly.
to the development of the spirit and the soul connection and bond,
Exactly.
which that goes into dating, that goes into praying together, for us going to church together, being rooted in God's house together, having, the same values, being together on the same page, talking about our money, talking about our parenting, getting things in order so that we can grow. I think all those
Mhm.
things, if we're not careful, can just really be stumbling blocks,
Mhm.
which then causes, I would say, separation, which then hurts our sex life,
Mhm.
which then cascades into other things. So I would say that sex is the easiest part of us becoming one. Jesus did the hardest part by dying on the cross
Mm.
and then being buried and raised from the dead. And by the Holy Spirit, we're connected with Him. And I don't mean to make that sexual with Jesus. That's weird. But spiritually speaking, we're one with Him.
Mm-hmm.
And then for us, that physical act and that gift is a reflection
Right.
of that amazing truth with God.
Which, to your point, like the physical is the easy part,
Yep.
but really it's that heart to heart conversation of
Mm-hmm.
being one,
Mm-hmm.
of us getting it right with one another
That's right.
and us communing with one another. And you, I should say, me creating a space for your heart to feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
to feel open, for you to be able to share with me, and vice versa.
Yep.
That can be very hard,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it can be something so beautiful.
So beautiful. And I've sat down and I've told Summer, I don't want to encourage all the couples or future couples. I told you what sex means to me with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, again, this is just communication, which not just communication. Communication is maybe one of the hardest things
Yeah.
in marriage, but just to sit down and let's just talk. And really, if you think about this, most people do not sit down and talk about sex, even outside of Christ, in this context. And rightfully so, it's a very private thing. But in marriage, we have to.
Mm-hmm.
We have to talk about it openly and be transparent and communicate and share and then do.
I feel like we need to talk about this more, but just one tidbit. Would you say when you talk to me about sex, was it really about the physical sex?
That's interesting. Um, I don't know if I understood the full thing, I would say. I think I was thinking that, but I think it was connecting. I was wanting to connect with you.
Yeah.
That's what it
That's
was.
yeah.
But for us,
Because it
but
wasn't,
but
to me,
for
it wasn't the real physical
right,
part.
right. But for men,
Yes.
sex is the way
Exactly.
for them to feel connected to their spouse.
Right. That's what I wanted to get to.
And
Yeah.
so, but for women, it's what? Men, it's to have sex to be connected.
Right.
For women, it's
I would say it's the communication.
right.
It's the listen, we want it all. It's the communication, it's the attention, it's all the loves.
God help me. And then sex is an outlay of that. So we're coming
Yeah.
from two different angles, but really, as we wrap this up, we can talk. Maybe we should do part 2 on this. But
Yeah.
but really, that this whole thing, we're opposite.
Totally.
To me, when I think about you and I, and then just us talking to couples and sharing at these conferences, God did that for a lot of reasons, but one reason is for us to serve one another.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're the same,
Mm.
then the serving part isn't totally there. Because
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe that, but when we're opposite
Mm-hmm.
and their needs are different, or the desires are different, or whatever, then that forces communication. Then that forces you to serve one another, and then in that serving is where we're changed. Serving one another is where we become more like Jesus.
Yeah.
That's where we begin to grow and bond. And so we just want to encourage you today. We don't know what you're facing. We don't know what you're up against. This topic on sex is massive. So many layers, so many hopes, expectations, dreams, and then unfortunately, so many nightmares, so many disappointments, so many just shame-based things are attached with it, and yet Jesus can do something great. So if you're not married, I believe when you do it God's way, your marriage can be amazing. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to put work in it, but God can really give you something profound. And then for all married couples, God can bless your sex life. He can cause you to bond spirit, soul, and body. And I would say have a lifelong honeymoon. And real quick in closing, I saw my grandparents in their 80s. We tell the story where we go. I went to their house to surprise them, went through their garage, opened their garage door by their code, got in it. When I got in the garage, music was blaring. It's like, what's going on? They're probably 84, 83, married over 60 years. Go in the kitchen from the garage. They're sitting at their table. Music of Nat King Cole is blaring, way too loud, eating ice cream, just staring at each other. And I was like, man, that's what it looks like. And so I tell Summer, when we're in our 80s, we're going to eat ice cream naked. We're going to listen to Eminem.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be amazing.
Not Eminem.
So you figure out what you want to do when you're 80 and set your mark and work on it just today and start, because your marriage can make it and your marriage has purpose. And we'll see you next time on the Marriage Podcast.